In this lab, we want to look at what you would do if your Linux machine did not start, or maybe you forgot the root password. So we'll need to boot up Linux in a rescue mode. Most installation media provides a rescue mode. You can also find a live Linux distribution and boot up off of a DVD image and repair a Linux system. In our case, we're going to edit the settings of our virtual machine while it is powered off. With the settings, I need to make sure the DVD drive is set to boot. So I'll move it up in the list. This is found under Firmware and Hyper-V. The boot order will be a different location with different virtualization software. You may have to research the documentation. I need to attach the DVD drive to the installation media. In this case, it's Oracle Linux. Once the image is attached, we will connect and start our Linux machine. We'll follow the menu to select a troubleshooting and rescue mode. I hit enter on each of those that I selected. The system will take a few moments to boot. At this point, the lab wants us to drop directly to a shell by using option 3. We'll hit enter, and we will enter again to the second question. Now that we're at the shell prompt, it tells us to type df to look and see that we have no mounted file systems from our hard disk. All these file systems are RAM drives or the DVD drive mounted. We can use BLK ID to look at all of our block devices and partitions on our physical drives. Here we see we have our SATA disk A, and I'm showing 4 partitions, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You likely have more because you've completed previous labs. I'm looking for the root partition. When we made our installation, we set the label to root to make it easy. Mine is SDA4. Yours may be SDA3. Carefully check. Now we'll run a repair. XFS_repair, followed by the partition. This scans. Of course, we don't have any errors. Next, the lab wants us to mount the root file system. You can make your own directory or use existing directories on your live CD. Most have a sysimage folder created under MNT. I typoed. Instead of dev, I typed MNT. I'll make a correction and press enter. The lab doesn't have us do it, but at this point, I always like to use a df-hs. Sorry, that was with the du. It's just df-h. Here I can see the root file system, which is under mnt/sysimage. The last one is only 18% used. If you see any file systems on your hard disk, any of the SDA and the numbers that reach 100%, that's a common issue for your system to malfunction. We see no errors here. We have plenty of free space, so we'll move on. To change the password, we need to make sure that the root file system, the /, is pointing to the hard disk, which is located at this point under MNT sysimage. So I'll change the root partition to the MNT sysimage folder. I want to make sure that I am looking at the physical hard disk root. So if I was to issue an ls/root and press enter, I want to make sure that I see files that are in the root home folder and not a blank empty folder that would designate that I was still looking at the DVD drive. Now I can issue the pass wd command followed by the account root and press enter. Here I can set the password. I mistyped. Let me try again. So all authentication tokens were updated successfully. This system is running something called SELinux, or Secure Linux. The kernel keeps track of all files that are modified, especially password files. So if you make a change to a critical system file, such as passwords, and you boot up normally, that file is locked. So any user account would not be able to change the password because we just modified the password file outside of the normal Linux system. So what we have to do, we have to create a file on the hard disk and tell it that, yes, we've made some changes administratively and it was not a virus, and to relabel all of the changed files and recognize that they are safe. We'll use the touch command /period and the word auto relabel. This places a hidden file at the root of the file system, and on next boot, the boot always checks for this file. If it exists, SELinux scans all the files and marks them as safe. I will type exit and power off. Once the system powers off, I will remove the installation media. I can do that through the media menu at the top. Verify that it has been ejected, and now I can start Oracle Linux normally. The boot up will take longer than normal because it will have to scan and re-signature all of the files. Here we see a warning, SELinux target policy relabel is required. Depending on the speed of your hard disk, this can take quite some time. After the relabel finishes, it'll restart one more time and then boot normally. To verify everything works, I want to change the password back. I'll drop to TTY5, log in as root with the new password. Now I'll change the password back. I get all authentication tokens updated successfully. If you don't get that message and you get a token manipulation error, then the auto relabel did not work. You potentially misspelled it. And it will not let you change the password. It will remain the secret 123. So if you get that message, you'll need to retry the touch /dot auto relabel. So I'm not going to hit enter here because my password was changed and all the signatures worked correctly. I'll backspace this command. We reached the end of the lab. I hope this helps anybody needing to reset the password, especially on a system running SELinux. You may now power off your Linux machine.